We can wait like 1 or 2 minutes just for more people to come, and then I'll start. Okay, I'm gonna start now, and then if people want to join, they'll just join us, and we'll just like continue from there. So I'm Wendy. I'll be the tutor for tonight. Um, okay, so I think I've done this before with you all as well. So it will just in general, I'll read a passage, explain some stuff, and then everyone will take turns reading, and then I'll ask some questions. And if you have any questions, make sure you can raise your hand and ask, or you can just like shout it out. And if you're able to turn your cameras on, that would be appreciated, but I understand if you can't. So I'm going to screen share and let me know if you can see it. Okay. Can you see the text? Just like give a thumbs up if you can see it. Are either of you able to see it? Can you hear me as well?
Yes.
Okay, so can you see the text?
Yes.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, first I'm gonna ask, does anyone want to give some sort of like summary of what you guys learned last time? Like, does anyone want to describe the story before this page? Do you remember? It's okay if you don't remember. So I think if I remember correctly, what happened before was Harry and Hermione are going to save Buckbeak the Hippogriff and Sirius Black. And now Harry's at a lake and there's like Dementors around him, and he's going to basically, we're going to see what he does now. So I'm going to read first, and then I'll describe some words as well, and we'll go from there. All right. Harry stepped outside again and edged around the cabin. He could hear yelping in the distance. That means the Dementors were closing in on Sirius. He and Hermione would be running to him at any moment. Harry stared out towards the lake, his heart doing a kind of drum roll in his chest. Whoever had sent that Patronus would be appearing at any moment. For a fraction of a second, he stood, irresolute, in front of Hagrid's door. You must not be seen. But he didn't want to be seen. He wanted to do the seeing. He had to know. And there were the Dementors. They were emerging out of the darkness from every direction, gliding around the edges of the lake. They were moving away from where Harry stood, to the opposite bank. He wouldn't have to get near them. Harry began to run. He had no thought in his head except his father. If it was him, if it was really him, he had to know, he had to find out. The lake was coming nearer and nearer, but there was no sign of anybody. On the opposite bank, he could see tiny glimmers of silver, his own attempt at a Patronus. There was a bush at the very edge of the water. Harry threw himself behind it, peering desperately through the leaves. On the opposite bank, the glimmers of silver were suddenly extinguished. A terrified excitement shot through him, any moment now. Come on, he muttered, starting about. Where are you? Dad, come on. But no one came. Harry raised his head to look at the circle of Dementors across the lake. One of them was lowering his hood. It was time for the rescuer to appear, but no one was coming to help this time. And then it hit him. He understood. He hadn't seen his father, he had seen himself. Harry flung himself out from behind the bush and pulled out his wand. Expecto Patronum, he yelled. And at the end of his wand burst, not a shapeless cloud of mist, but a blinding, dazzling silver animal. He screwed up his eyes, trying to see what it was. It looked like a horse. It was galloping silently away from him, across the black silver of the lake. He saw it lower its head and charged at the swarming Dementors. Now it was galloping around and around the back, black shapes on the ground. And the Dementors were falling out, scattering, retreating into the darkness. They were gone. The Patronus turned. It was cantering back towards Harry across the still surface of the water. It wasn't a horse. It wasn't a unicorn either. It was a stag. It was shining brightly as the moon above. It was coming back to him. Okay. Does anyone have any questions in general about this section before I start describing some words that might be confusing? James, Andy, any questions? Okay, if there's no questions, I'll just describe some words that I think are worth talking about. Give me a sec. So a word that's actually it's pretty difficult for us to know now is irresolute. It's a pretty difficult word even for me, I would say. It basically means like he's uncertain. You know, he's kind of standing next to Hagrid's door and he doesn't really know what to do. And then emerging out of the darkness. So the mentors are coming out. If you can put yourself in Harry's shoes, he's basically watching a bunch of, Dementors coming out of the forest, and they're very scary. And then gliding, so the Dementors they're kind of like, they're sliding across the river. So they move very like gracefully. And then let's see. They're moving. Oh, extinguished. So extinguished is like if you have a fire and it gets extinguished, that means it went out. So basically the glimmers of silver were suddenly extinguished. So the light is gone, like it went out. And then the phrase screwed up his eyes. It's like he's like tightening his eyes because he's trying to see better. And then a stag is a male deer. So do you both know what a Patronus is? Do you remember? It's okay if you don't remember. A Patronus is basically in Harry Potter, you think a happy thought and you can have and a Patronus will come out in a shape of an animal. And then it can chase away the Dementors. And so for Harry, his Patronus is actually a male deer. Now, I didn't read the last part with you guys, but did any of you expect that Harry was going to be the one to save, himself? James, did you expect this to happen? Did you think Harry was the one to save himself?
I watched the movie, so
you watched the movie, so you know what happens already.
So
yeah, when I first read the book, I didn't know this was going to happen. Yeah, James?
it was him.
Yeah, it was Harry. Okay. Does anyone want to read the next page? I can also go in order of the people on my screen. So James, do you want to read the next page? Okay, you can start from here.
It stopped on the bank. Its hooves made no mark on the soft ground as it stared at Harry with its large silver eyes. Slowly, it bowed its
Antler.
antlered head, and Harry realized. Wrong, he whispered. But as his trembling fingertips stretched toward the creature, it vanished. He stood there, hands still outstretched. Then, with a great leap of his heart, he heard hoofs behind him. He whirled around and saw Hermione dashing toward him. What did you do? She said fiercely. You said you were only going to keep a lookout. I just saved all our lives, said Harry. Get behind here, behind this bush. I'll explain. Hermione listened to what had just happened with her mouth open yet again. Did anyone see you? Yes, haven't you been listening? I saw me, but I thought it was my dad. It's okay. Harry, I can't believe it. You conjured up a Patronus that drove away all those Dementors. That's very, very advanced magic. I knew I could do it this time, said Harry, because I'd already done it. Does that make sense? I don't know. Harry, look at Snape. Together they peered around the bush at the other bank. Snape had regained consciousness. He was conjuring stretchers and lifting the limp forms of Harry, Hermione, and Black onto them. A fourth stretcher, no doubt hearing Ron, was already floating at his side. Then one held out in front of him. He moved away toward the castle. Right, it's nearly time, said Hermione tensely, looking at her watch. We've got about 45 minutes until Dumbledore locks the door to the hospital wing. We've got to rescue Sirius and get back into the ward before anybody realizes we are missing. They waited, watching the moving clouds reflected in the lake, while the bush next to them whispered in the breeze. Buckbeak, bored, was ferreting for worms again. Do you reckon he's up there yet? Said Harry, checking his watch. He looked up at the castle and began counting the windows to the right of the west tower. Look, Hermione whispered. Who's that? Someone's coming back out of the castle.
Okay, I will stop you there. Do you have any questions about this passage?
No.
Yeah, I assume not. It's pretty straightforward. But okay, just for some words in case we are a little confused. The pronunciation of this word is antlered, and it's what you expect. You know, deers have antlers. It just means there's antlers on the deer's head. And so if you remember from the Marauders map, I don't remember the exact names, but Prongs is one of the names from that map, and it represents Harry's father. So basically, by conjuring up the same Patronus as Harry's father, Harry's basically saying that his father is here as well, because he thought he was his father. And then trembling, so his trembling fingertips is like his fingers are shaking. Another word, you pronounced it right, but just to make sure we all know it's conjured. So conjured's like, you know, you made it, like you conjured up a Patronus, you created a Patronus. Bearing's an interesting word. It just means like it's holding Ron. So this stretcher has Ron in it. And then ferreting is like searching for worms, like he's digging for worms. I think probably did it before. All right. Now, Andy, do you want to read the next part?
Yeah.
All right, you want to start from Harry stared through the darkness?
Oh, good. Harry stares through the darkness. The man was hurrying across the ground toward one of the entries. Something shiny glinted in his belt. Macaner, said Harry, the executioner. Executioner.
Yes.
He's gone to get the Dementors. This is it. Hermione. Hermione put her hands on Buckbeak's back and Harry gave her a leg up. Then he placed his foot on one of the lower branches of the bush and climbed up in front of her. He put Buckbeak's rope back over his neck and tied it to the other side of his collar like reins. Ready? He whispered to Hermione. You better hold onto me. He nudged Buckbeak's side with his heels. Buckbeaks soared straight into the dark air. Harry gripped his flank with his knees, feeling the great winds rising powerfully beneath them. Hermione was holding Harry very tight around the waist. He could hear her muttering, "Oh no, I don't like this though. I really don't like this." Harry argued, but beat forward. They were gliding quietly towards the upper floor of the castle. Harry put hard on the left-hand side of the road, and Buckbeak turned. Harry was trying to count the window flashing past. "Whoa," he said, pulling backward as hard as he could. Buckbeak slowed them, and they find themselves at a stop, unless you counted the fact that they kept rising up and down several feet, as the hippogriff beat his wings to remain airborne. "He's here," Harry said, spotting Sirius as they rose up beside the window. He reached out, and as Buckbeak's wings fell, was able to tap sharply on the glass. Black took up. Harry saw his jaw drop. He leapt from his chair, hurried to the window, and tried to open it. but it was locked. "Stand back," Hermione called to him, and she took out her wand, still gripping the back of Harry's robes with her left hand. "Oh, Mara!" The window sprang open. "How?" said Black weakly, stared at the hippogriff. "Get on. There's not much time," said Harry, gripping Buckbeak firmly on either side of his sleek neck to hold him steady. "You've got to get out of here. The Dementors are coming. McNair's going to get him.
Okay, I will stop you there. Do you have any questions about this section?
No.
Okay, that's good. I feel like the next few sections will be pretty straightforward, but just so we all know some words. Give me a sec. So glinted means like it like is shining. It like shines. You know, shiny glinted in his belt. Like there's a little sparkle from his belt. And then you pronounced it right the second time, but just so we all know, it's executioner. And then let's see. Airborne, I think airborne is a pretty straightforward word, but it means like he's still in the air, like he's staying in the air. And then aloha, this is pronounced alohomora. You're not going to need to know this word in the future because it's kind of just a Harry Potter word, but that's how you would pronounce it. It's the opening door lock. It like opens up the locks. And then this is steady, so it's like balanced. He's holding Buckbeak away for him to be balanced. And so I wanted to ask, obviously James has watched the movies, and I don't know if Andy, if you have as well, but do you think like Harry made a good decision saving Sirius Black? Andy, do you have an opinion? It's okay if you don't have an opinion. I think for me, I think Harry probably did make a good decision because, if we know that Sirius Black is innocent and, Harry is in some sort of way related to Sirius Black, because Sirius Black is his godfather, if we remember. Like godfather is someone who takes care of you after your parents have, passed away. Then I think Harry probably did make a good decision. All right, I will read the next section and then we'll go again. Black placed a hand on either side of the window frame and heaved his head and shoulders out of it. It was lucky he was so thin. In seconds, he managed to fling one leg over Buckbeak's back and pull himself into the hippogriff behind Hermione. Okay, Buckbeak, up, said Harry, shaking the ropes. Up to the tower, come on. The hippogriff gave one sweep of its mighty wings and they were soaring upward again, high as the top of the West Tower. Buckbeak landed with a clatter on the battlements, and Harry and Hermione slid off him at once. Sirius, you better go, quick, Harry panted. They'll reach Flitwick's office any moment. They'll find out you're gone. Buckbeak pawed the ground, tossing his sharp head. What happened to the other boy? Ron, croaked Sirius. He's going to be okay. He's still out of it, but Madame Pomfrey says he'll be able to make him better. Quick, go. But Black was still staring down at Harry. How can I ever think? Go, Harry and Hermione shouted together. Black wheeled Buckbeak around, facing the open sky. We'll see each other again, he said. You are truly your father's son, Harry. He squeezed Buckbeak's side with his heels. Harry and Hermione jumped back as the enormous wings rose once again. The hippogriff took off into the air. He and his rider became smaller and smaller as Harry gazed after them. Then a cloud drifted across the moon. They were gone. So Harry is successful and Sirius Black has now been saved. Some quick words. We'll go through them fast. Heaved, it's like to pull himself up. He pulled himself up and out of the window frame. And then pawed. Where does it say that? It says, let's see. Buckbeak pawed the ground. So that's like he's kind of like his foot is kind of like digging into the ground. Like, you know how like horses, they kind of like dig the dirt. That's kind of what he's doing. And then this phrase right here, you are truly your father's son. So in Harry Potter, there's a very big reoccurring like idea that Harry and his father are very similar. And so in here we see another example of that because Harry and his father both have the same Patronus. They're both stags. And I don't know if you guys been asked this before, but have you guys thought about what kind of animal you want your Patronus to be? James, do you have an animal you would want your Patronus to be?
I haven't thought of that.
Do you want to think about it? Like, what's your favorite animal? It's okay if you don't have one. I was just asking. Andy, do you have like a favorite animal or what you think you would want your Patronus to be?
I haven't thought yet.
It's okay if you haven't. You guys can keep thinking about this. I think for me, I think like a cat would be cute. I like cats. I think, I feel like I like sleeping. Cats like sleeping. So I think I would want my Patronus to be a cat. I think that would be very fun.
I agree.
Yes. Okay. We're on to chapter 22. James, do you want to start reading from here again?
Outpost again. Harry. Hermione was tugging at his sleeve, staring at her watch. We've got exactly 10 minutes to get back down to the hospital wing without anybody seeing us. Before Dumbledore locks the door. Okay, said Harry, wrenching his gaze from the sky. Let's go. They slipped through the doorway behind them and down a tightly spiraling stone staircase. As they reached the bottom of it, they heard voices. They flattened themselves against the wall and listened. It sounded like Fudge and Snake. They were walking quickly along the corridor at the foot of the staircase. Only hope Dumbledore's not going to make difficulties, Snape was saying. The kiss will be performed immediately. As soon as McNair returned with the Dementors, this whole black affair has been highly embarrassing. I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to informing the Daily Prophet that we've got him at last. I dare say they'll want to interview you, Snape, and once young Harry's back in his right mind, I expect he'll want to tell the prophet exactly how you saved him. Harry clenched his teeth. They caught a glimpse of Snape's smirk as he and Fudge passed Harry and Hermione's hiding place. Their footsteps died away. Harry and Hermione waited a few moments to make sure they'd really gone, then started to run in the opposite direction, down one staircase, then another, along a new corridor. Then they heard a cackling ahead. Peeves, Harry muttered, grabbing Hermione's wrist. In here. They tore into a deserted classroom to the left just in time. Peeves seemed to be bouncing along the corridor in boisterous good spirits, laughing his head off. Oh, he's horrible, whispered Hermione, her ear to the door. I bet he's all excited because the Dementors are going to finish off Sirius. She checked her watch. 3 minutes, Harry. They waited until Peeves' gloating voice had faded into the distance, then slid back out of the room and broke into a run again. Hermione, what will happen if we don't get back inside before Dumbledore locks the door? Harry panted. I don't want to think about it, Hermione moaned, checking her watch again. 1 minute.
Okay, I'll stop
We
you.
have stop reading.
Okay. Oh, hello, Abby, you're back. Nothing, you didn't really miss anything. You just finished the page. Okay, so I think a good word to kind of know is like wrenching his gaze from the sky. So wrenching is usually like, it's kind of like a word to describe an action, like when you take something away. But in this context, it's like he is looking away, like he has to force himself to look away. I think the thing to highlight is like force. Like wrenching is a word where you have to kind of like use energy to look away. So, and then you pronounced it correctly, boisterous. It's it's what it implies. Like if you see here, it's talking about how Peeves is like bouncing along, he's like laughing, he's in good spirits. Those are all like words that relate to like happiness. So boisterous is like he's happy, he's excited. And then gloating, I think we probably know what that word is, but just to make sure, it's like he's making fun. You know, everyone wants Black to die, and Peeves likes to make fun of these things. Okay. And I don't think none of you had questions about that part, right? I feel like right now we're still in a pretty, it's not anything too confusing. But just to make sure we all know, they think Sirius Black is still in the room, but obviously he's not. Okay, Andy, do you want to read the next page?
Yeah, I think I'll
Okay.
read the next page.
Right here.
They have reached the end of the corridor with the hospital wing entrance. Okay, I can hear Dumbledore, say Hermione tensely. Come on, Harry. They creeped along the corridor. The door opened. Dumbledore's back appeared. I'm going to lock you in, they heard him saying. It is 5 minutes to midnight. Miss Granger, sweeter should do it. Lock. Dumbledore backed out of the room, closed the door, and took out his wand to magically lock it. Panicking, Harry and Hermione ran forward. Dumbledore looked up, and a wide smile appeared under the long, sober mustache. Well, he said quickly. We did it, said Harry breathlessly. Sirius has come. Buckbeak. Dumbledore beamed at him. Wow, well done, I think. He listened intently for any sound within the hospital wing. Yes, I think you've gone to get inside. I'll lock you in. Harry and Hermione slipped back inside the dormitory. It was empty except for Ron, who was still lying motionless in the end bed. As the lock clicked behind them, Harry and Hermione crept back to their own beds. Hermione tucking the time turner back under his robes. A moment later, Madame Pomfrey comes striding back out of her office. Did I hear the headmaster leaving? Am I allowed to look after my patients now? She is in a very bad mood. Harry and Hermione thought it best to accept their chocolate quickly. Madame Pomfrey stood over them, making sure they ate it. They ate it. But Harry could hardly swallow. He and Hermione were waiting, listening to the nerve jingling. And then, as they both took a first piece of chocolate from Madame Pomfrey, they heard a distant roar for furor, echoing from somewhere above them. What was that? Said Madame Pomfrey in alarm. Now they could hear angry voices, growing louder and louder. Madame Pomfrey was staring at the door. Really, they'll wake everybody up. Everybody up. What do they think they were doing? Harry was trying to hear what the voices were saying. They were drawing near. He must have separated servers. We should have left somebody in the room with him. When this get out.
Okay, I will stop you there if that's okay.
Oh.
Just so we all know, this is pronounced corridor. And the explanation is like, it's like a hallway. Like for example, in some people's houses, when you walk in, there's kind of like a hallway where you can put some like shoes and stuff like that. That's kind of like a corridor. And then dormitory is like a sleeping area. So in this case, it's where they are because Madame Pomfrey is taking care of them. And then So this is a word for the Harry Potter universe. You're never gonna have to use this word in real life, but it's pronounced disapparated. It's just like he disappeared, he teleported. I think the best way to say is he teleported. Okay, so for the last like 10 minutes, unless one of you really want to read as well, you can always read, but I'll just like, I'll keep reading. I think we can probably get through 1 or 2 or 3 more pages, and we'll just like keep doing the same thing because we're kind of in the home stretch now. So I'll start from he didn't. He didn't disapparate, Snape roared, now very close at hand. You can't apparate or disapparate inside this castle. This has something to do with Potter. Severus, be reasonable. Harry has been locked up. Bam. The door of the hospital wing burst open. Fudge, Snape, and Dumbledore came striding into the ward. Dumbledore alone looked calm. Indeed, he looked as though he was quite enjoying himself. Fudge appeared angry, but Snape was beside himself. Out with it, Potter, he bellowed. What did you do? Professor Snape, shrieked Madame Pomfrey, control yourself. See here, Snape, be reasonable, said Fudge. This door's been locked, we just saw. They helped him escape, I know it, Snape howled, pointing at Harry and Hermione. His face was twisted, spit was flying from his mouth. Calm down, man, Fudge barked, you're talking nonsense. You don't know Potter, shrieked Snape. He did it, I know he did it. That will do, Severus, said Dumbledore quietly. Think about what you are saying. This door has been locked since I left the ward 10 minutes ago. Madame Pomfrey, have these students left their beds? Of course not, said Madame Pomfrey, bristling. I would have heard them. Well, there you have it, Severus, said Dumbledore calmly. Unless you are suggesting that Harry and Hermione are able to be in 2 places at once, I'm afraid I don't see any point in troubling them further. Snape stood there seething, staring from Fudge, who looked thoroughly shocked at his behavior, to Dumbledore, whose eyes were twinkling behind his glasses. Snape whirled about, rubbed swishing behind him, and stormed out of the ward. Fellow seems quite unbalanced, said Fudge, staring after him. I'd watch out for him if I were you, Dumbledore. Oh, he's not unbalanced, said Dumbledore quietly. He just suffered a severe disappointment. Okay, so some words that might be useful. So there's a lot of like anger words, I feel like, in this passage. You have roared, you have bellowed, shrieked, howled, barked. So they're all words that just mean anger. There's various words of anger. So we can kind of know that Severus is very angry. Do you guys like remember why Severus is angry? James, like you watch a movie. Do you remember why Severus is so like upset that Sirius Black is like not there anymore? It's okay if you don't remember. I can also say it.
Snape is angry because he thinks Black
Maybe, killed some.
Harry and Hermione's brains.
Yeah. He's angry because he thinks that, Sirius might have manipulated them or like, convinced them to help him. And he's also angry that because he thinks that Sirius isn't innocent and that, he and Sirius in the past, they don't have a very good relationship. So Snape is especially angry about this situation. And then, let's see, bristling. I feel like it's not a word you usually use, but it's like she's kind of on edge. Like on edge is like she's a little bit anxious, a little bit like upset because obviously Snape is disrupting her patience. And then another word I think is seething. It's another anger word. It's like he's really mad. You can just tell that Snape is quite angry. All right. Does anyone want to read? Because if anyone wants to read, they can read. If not, I'll just read the next page. Okay, James, you want to read? Okay, starting from here. Or no, you can start from here.
The only one plus Fudge. The Daily Prophet's going to have a field day. We had Black cornered and he slipped through our fingers yet again. All it needs now is for the story of that hippogriff's escape to get out. And I'll be a laughing stock. Well, I'd better go and notify the ministry. And the Dementors, said Dumbledore, they'll be removed from the school, I trust. Oh yes, they'll have to go, said Fudge, running his fingers distractedly through his hair. Never dreamed that they'd attempt to administer the kiss on an innocent boy, completely out of control. No, I'll have them packed off back to Azkaban tonight. Perhaps we should think about dragons at the school entrance. Hagrid would like that, said Dumbledore, smiling at Harry and Hermione. As he and Fudge left the dormitory, Madame Pomfrey hurried to the door and locked it again. Muttering angrily to herself, she headed back to her office. There was a low moon from the other end of the world. Ron had woken up. They could see him sitting up, rubbing his head, looking around. What happened? He groaned. Harry, why are we in here? Where's Sirius? Where's Lupin? What's going on? Harry and Hermione looked at each other. Do explain, said Harry, helping himself to some more chocolate. When Harry, Ron, and Hermione left the hospital wing at noon the next day, it was to find an almost deserted castle. The sweltering heat and the end of the exams meant that everyone was taking full advantage of another Hogsmeade visit. Neither Ron nor Hermione felt like going. However, so they and Harry wandered onto the grounds, still talking about the extraordinary events of the previous night and wondering where Sirius and Buckbeak were now. Sitting near the lake, watching the giant squid waving its tentacles lazily above the water. Harry lost the thread of the conversation as he looked across the opposite bank. The stag had galloped toward him from there just last night.
Okay, I will stop you from there, and I think this will be our final page. Just some quick final words. Here's another anger word, puffed. He's kind of angry. He's like a little annoyed because both of his attempts have been failed. He was not able to capture Sirius Black, and the hippogriff is now escaped. And then, okay, I think you managed to pronounce it correctly as well, but just so we are all sure, it's administer. There's a lot of, I guess, ways to describe the word, but in this case, it's to give. So never dreamed they'll attempt to administer the kiss. So they never dreamed that the Dementor would try to give the kiss on someone. You can also administer a test, like you're giving someone a test. So that's what administer means. I think that will be it for now. I think next time you guys will probably be done with the book. So you will have to wait until next time, unfortunately. So I'm going to stop this share. You guys, it's been good. You guys are free to leave now. Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.